What's up?
What's up? Hey guys, we want to welcome you to the 20th episode of Barry Share.
Barry Share. Here we are.
Number 20. Here we go.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. That's right. We're starting off 2017 with a bang. Cam Newton, what's up, big time? It's good to see you, man. Happy New Year to you.
Hey, Diana.
We are going to be talking about fasting and praying together in the new year, and specifically, and it'll apply if you're single, or if you're dating. But specifically, we're going to be talking about some of our experiences of fasting and praying together as a married couple, and so we're pumped about the topic tonight. We'd love to have you guys hang with us and join the conversation, drop some knowledge on us, we're going to have a good time tonight.
We got some new coffee mugs.
We have new coffee mugs.
Yeah, they have our initials. Some of you may be wondering why mine has a C on it. It's because my sister-in-law gave it to us, and she calls me Coley, Coley. So those who are, I guess, closest to me call me Coley. And this is my official invitation for you to call me Coley, and that is why I have a C on my cup.
Come on.
And so,
and I don't know if you guys know this, but Nicole has a blog that is separate from barryshare.com. Max, you want to say hello to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Max says Happy New Year.
And Jen here. Hey, Jen. Yep, ColeyBerry.com.
That's right.
Most of my stuff, though, I've moved over to Barry Share. So You can go over and check on ColeyBerry.com. There is some old school stuff. I've been blogging, actually, since 2005. When we first got married. Our very first week of being married, I started blogging. So that's going on 12 years now. And that's a lot of
content.
A lot of
If you want to see some old pictures and some funny stories. She's hilarious, by the way, if you haven't figured that out yet. But I think she's even funnier in her writing than she is in her verbal jokes.
Oh, thanks, babe.
That's because I'm usually the butt of your verbal jokes.
Well,
so,
I mean,
you know.
You have a nice butt, so.
Thank you.
Okay. So anyway, we want to talk about fasting and praying because here we are in January, and this is the thing in January. A lot of churches and a lot of faith communities, they take the first part of January and they say, hey, we want to pause and really give God the rest of our year. And so kind of as like an example to themselves or to the Lord or to the community is like, we're going to give God this first part of our year and we're going to fast and pray. And so the church that we're a part of here in Charlotte, we're doing a 21-day fast, and we were just meeting with some of our people in our small group yesterday talking about it, and man, it's been really, really good. It's been hard. So we wanted to talk about different ways that you can fast, what it does when you fast together, when you pray in together, and not just fasting, but fasting and praying. And so we're probably not going to preach, although Brandon has some preaching up in him, I think, tonight. He's ready to preach, so you may get some. But for the most part, we just want to talk about our experience as a couple of fasting and praying together and what it's done for our relationship, what it's done for our individual faith, what it's done for our faith, of our community of faith, the people that we've led, and the people that, we do life with. So, yeah, what do you think about fasting? I mean, like, for me, I didn't grow up in church. I didn't grow up in a church community. And so, when I got into college and started really walking with the Lord, I had no idea what fasting was. I was just like, what, you don't eat? That's stupid. Like, you need nourishment. And that was really like a foreign concept to me. And so, and really even through college at the church that I was a part of, we didn't really, maybe I missed it. Maybe they were into it then, but I didn't really catch that part of it. And so it wasn't until after I had graduated from college that I really got connected to another church down in Charleston called Seacoast Church, and that was when we first did our first fast and prayer of the year. But I remember getting married to you, and we moved out to California, and we were living in Pasadena, going to seminary. We were working and serving and worshiping with the Dream Center, the Los Angeles Dream Center, Angel's Temple.
Memories.
And there was this guy named Dr. Russell, maybe?
Dr. Bob Russell.
Dr. Bob Russell. He came out. So at the Dream Center on Thursday nights, every Thursday night, they would take that opportunity to allow a different pastor to come in and preach. So every Thursday night, we had a new pastor come in and preach. And so that was our midweek service.
Right.
And they used it as an opportunity to showcase kind of what was going on at the Dream Center to these pastors who were coming in. And then, most of the time those pastors would partner with the Dream Center. It was really brilliant.
Yeah, because it was great for us, too, because it was like a who's who of preachers coming in.
Yeah, it was great.
And so this guy, actually that night didn't preach on fasting, but he had written maybe a book on fasting. They had an entire fasting magazine. That they passed out to everybody in the entire church. And so we got a fasting magazine.
Right. And so here we are. We're both seminary students. We're supposed to be like...
Just married. I mean, newlywed.
Super newlyweds.
So, I mean, we got married July the 15th.
Yeah.
And then I just looked back in my old journal because, I take notes. And I found the sermon notes from Dr. Bob. And so it was September the 1st of that year. So, I mean, what's that?
Oh, it was really soon.
I mean, that's...
a few weeks.
Like, just a couple of weeks after we've been... Yeah.
So anyway, we got this magazine and we were like reading about how fasting has changed people's lives, and then there was like this whole thing on like how to fast and how to prepare yourself for a fast, like if you're doing a full fast with no food and no water. And man, he had this like pre-fast diet, so we decided to try that, but we didn't do that until about November. It was right after Thanksgiving.
I think
we did that.
We didn't work up the courage to do the fast until I think after Pastor Tommy Barnett came and preached a couple of months later, and he was talking about how every move of God in history has been preceded by prayer and fasting.
Yeah, and every single one.
And so he was talking about the one that got all over me, and I was just looking back at it. He was talking about the Welsh revival and how in like 1904 the revival broke out in Wales. If you've never heard about this, I encourage you. I mean, just look this up and read about it. It was phenomenal. It was one of the only revivals that was not contained within a church structure. I mean, it literally went across the entire nation, and not just one church was full, but every church was full.
And it started with prayer and fasting.
In 1901, people began to pray.
Wow, 3 years before.
And in 1904, there were many qualified clergymen, but a 25-year-old coal miner who had 12-hour work days, who prayed and read his Bible every lunch break. His name was Evan Roberts. And he prayed, God, bend me, bend me, bend me. And he prayed so loud, his landlord evicted him out of his apartment.
Get out, dude. You're being too loud.
And 34,000 people were saved in a matter of weeks.
That's so cool.
God showed up, and every church was full. Revival swept across the land, and it was all preceded by prayer and by fasting. And I'll tell you, there's something about fasting. Jesus and his disciples, he was hanging out with his disciples, and he empowered them to go out and to do some of the ministry that he had been doing. And they went out and they tried to cast out the demons like Jesus was doing, and they were successful. And a lot of times he said, use my name, and tell them in the name of Jesus, get out and speak with authority. And so they did, and most of the spirits obeyed. But there was one devil that didn't buke. There was one that did not obey. And they said, Jesus, they came back and said, why did this one not leave? And it's like he drew him close and he said, this kind only will go by prayer and fasting. And so there's something about a spiritual authority that occurs when you are willing to amp it up and you want your spirit man to grow. Then one of the things that you can do is you can fast. And so fasting means that you are intentionally doing without some pleasures of the flesh because you want, where the real joy comes from, you want your spirit to come alive.
Yeah.
And so you're willing to deny yourself temporarily with little things so that the real you, the you that's on the inside, can come to the surface and you can live on another level. I don't know about you, but in 2017, I want to live on another level. And if you agree with that, I just feel like there's something on that. Can you just say, I want to live on another level?
I do. I want to live on another. I tell you what, though, today when we were fasting, I did not feel like I was living on another level at all. Can I just be honest? I felt like I was living like low level because I was like low energy.
Hey, keep it real.
But we decided. So this is one of the things, and we'll get back to the thing in California because I do want to connect with that. But you know, a lot of people are doing this prayer and fasting, and for us, we've done a Daniel fast for 21 days. That's when you just eat vegetables and fruit and whole grains, and you take sugar and you take meat out of your diet. And that is awesome. I mean, I've had some great breakthrough with that. We've done the Whole30 diet during a prayer and fasting time. And this time I was kind of doing that. I was like, yeah, we're going to do Whole30 and I'm going to lose some weight too. It's going to be awesome to get back in my jeans after Christmas. And you know, Brandon had some great wisdom for me. And he was just like, babe, we can do that. That's awesome. You know, we've done it a few times and it's been really good for our health. But he was also saying, you know, like when you're doing Whole30, when you're doing the chopping and the prepping and the preparing and the recipes and the shopping, like you're really preoccupied with food. And so, you know, I just think like the wisdom that you gave me on that, like, hey, let's just make it a little bit more simple this time and just say, you know, basically what we decided to do was we're just going to say, we're going to go without sugar, like added sugar and stuff like that, for the whole 21 days. And we kind of let our body detox from that. And then we were actually going to spend 2 days a week, Mondays and Thursdays, and not eat from the time we wake up until sundown. So we can eat dinner. So we just had dinner. That's why I have a smile on my face. Can I get an amen? I mean, anyone else have a hard time? It was just me that has a hard time not eating all day. I was a butthole today.
I'm glad you said that B word.
I almost said the other one. If I hadn't gotten that chicken in my
you weren't.
Anyway,
you were wonderful.
I was okay, but anyway, I really love the wisdom, like to simplify it and just to say like, hey, let's remember like the prayer part, and because sometimes we take out the prayer part and we put in the preparation part.
It's not fasting and food prep.
Yeah.
You know, it's fasting and prayer.
Yeah. And so I just want to encourage you, some of you guys, you know, you're doing this and it's awesome. And hey, whatever God's put on your heart, on your own personal spirit to prayer and fast, like, that's awesome. Obey him, you know, but just don't get caught up, as I have, in the doing of it. We were talking with our small group the other night, and she was saying how they were doing the Daniel fast. She was like, we were eating good on the Daniel fast. She said, girl, I had that thing set up. She said, I had recipes, and she's like, I was making it the best Daniel fast ever. And, you know, she's like, I lost the point of it. And so, I just want to encourage you, you know, whatever it is, even if you said, you know, I'm going to do Whole30, and now you're a few days into it on your own, and now you're like, wow, I've been thinking a lot about food lately and not as much about the Lord. You know, just whatever God's showing you to do, just do that. You know, you don't have to be completely on it the whole entire time. just rigid. Just continue, just keep your heart open and listen to the Lord. So back to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We decided to do, before we did this pre-fast diet thing that he was telling us about. And like the very first day that I did it, I threw up 3 times and I had like a massive headache. My body was detoxing because we were so poor that the whole time we lived in California, we literally would like have to go and stand in line for free food. And like it was all packaged, processed. We had zero money. We were literally living on faith, just that like, God, you have to bring us money in our mailbox to pay the rent. It was really a great season now that we're out of it. But it was tough. And my body was just like, oh. So we detoxed out of that. And then the magazine was telling us, you know, there was specific things that you were praying for throughout the week that you were praying and fasting when we started it. And I remember two main things. One, we were praying for my parents' salvation.
Come on.
And we were just really impressed. Of course, I had been praying for their salvation for over 10 years at that point, or about 10 years, and just knew that God wanted to just capture their hearts. And I had tried so many things. I had tried praying. I had tried talking to them. I had tried showing them my life had changed. I had done everything that I could do in the human nature. And here we were all the way across the country. And I just had this like burden for their salvation again. Just like, you've got to go back and ask the Lord to continue and just don't give up. Because, you know, we're in the middle of like getting married and moving to California and starting seminary. And sometimes you just let up, you know, on the gas a little bit, but God was just like, push the gas. And so I remember we committed to praying and fasting for 3 days. And we were like, we're praying for their salvation. Like, we want to see breakthrough in their hearts. And we would walk back and forth in the living room. Remember that? You were like on one side of the couch and I was on the other side of the couch because that's all we had space for. And we prayed and prayed and prayed in that little apartment in Pasadena. And I remember on the last day of the prayer and fasting, the day after, we got a call from my mom, and she just said, "Hey, I'm sick. I don't know what's wrong. They think something's really wrong. We're not exactly sure, but just want to let you know, like I'm sick. It's bad." And so I was like, this isn't what I prayed and fasted for, God. You know, and I was, but I was hopeful too. Like, hey, maybe this is what will be, what does it for her or for them. And,
because I remember what you had prayed.
Yeah. Tell.
I mean,
you remember everything. You write it all down. So.
I don't remember everything, but
I remember too, but go ahead.
But I remember we were praying. I'll never forget that week because, I mean, it was like, guys, prayer means, it does something. It moves things.
Yeah.
It's like, and I don't really even know how all this works, but it's like there's authority, like the earth, like God created the earth, but he created it for us, for human beings to rule. And so when we amp up in our spiritual lives and we do things like prayer and fast, then what we're doing is we're giving legal access for the Lord of Lords to rule the earth through us and through our words. And so when we pray, we're actually granting permission for angels to come and do what is the will of the Lord. Yeah. But it's like we pave a pathway for heaven to invade earth when we claim the promises of heaven
and speak them with our mouth.
And sometimes there's a big bad gorilla devil in our way, and we need to get built up in our faith through fasting to be able to plow through him and to say, no, the Jesus train is coming through today. And guys, I felt that week we were doing this, we were plowing, we were praying, and I felt it was like there was a war going on for the souls of Jack and Chris Malseed. And I remember you getting to a breaking point, you're in tears, and you're saying, God, whatever
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, if it meant, and I mean, I guess in my thought, I was like, if it means something happening to me, you know, I didn't realize it was going to be something happening to her. But anyway, long story long, you know, she was sick when we finally got back to South Carolina to visit her at Christmas. She had gone down from like 170 pounds to 120 pounds. Yeah. She had lost a lot of weight since we had seen her, and she was sick. And over the next few weeks, she was in and out of the hospital a lot, and she almost died a few times. And it turns out that she got to a point where she was like, whoa, I'm afraid to die. And everything that she had put her faith in, her job, her marriage, her health, her future, her identity was all put into these things. Like, I remember her telling me, why do I need Jesus? Like, this is before she got sick. Like, I make 6 figures, and I have a marriage that I love my husband, and we get along great, and you turned out good, Nicole, and I did, but yeah. They were like, we've had friends that we've had for 30 years, and we've had, you know, I drive a BMW. Like, why do I need Jesus? People come to me with their problems. Why do I need to go to someone else? And so I had no answer for her except for, like, you're going to need him. You need him. Whether you know it or not, you need Jesus. And so here she had finally gotten to the bottom of her barrel. She didn't know if she was ever going to go back to work again. Her health was declining rapidly. Even her relationship with my dad was rocky because they had just been thrown, you know, they'd been tossed in the wind, and they had this storm, and they were not anchored to the rock. And so they were even like, whoa, what's going on here? And I remember she was just like, I'm scared to die. And it was her secretary who was visiting, who also knew the Lord. I knew that Norma Jean had been praying for her as well. And her secretary was able to lead her to the Lord. And then my mom just, like, her whole life changed, and her whole mindset changed. And she was never able to be a part of a church where she was being discipled, but she, like, asked her one friend who she knew the Lord to disciple her. She asked me every time I came home, or anytime I was on the phone with her, to pray with her or to teach her about the Bible. And it was just such a precious time. And then when we moved back, it was just really cool to see how God just continued to develop that. And then later on, we took her to this guy's, I don't know what it was, some preaching thing that
Andrew Womack, and he is always talking about how God ain't mad at you, and he's happy, and he still heals, and so he had seen lots of, like, physical healings, people raised from the dead, and so people would come and watch him preach, and so I was like, I'm gonna take them. Yeah, be like, hey, she might get healed. Let's just do it. Hey, if there's a shot, let's go. You know.
So we took her. Yeah. We took her, and you weren't there, but I had taken Ella. She was a baby up to see them. They were at Duke. She was trying to get a lung transplant, and my dad. It was Valentine's Day, and my dad. I was going to take her. My dad was going to stay back because he wasn't into all that stuff, but she was, and so she said. So he was like, "Wait a minute, it's Valentine's Day, and my 3 girls, my wife, my daughter, and my granddaughter, aren't going to be with me. So I might as well just go with y'all and just be with y'all, just to help, you know." Yeah. So we ended up going. Ella was she was only like a few months old, 6 months old. Yeah. She was a complete wreck the entire time. I couldn't even be in the meeting. So my mom and dad sat in this meeting and listened to this man preach. And at the very end, I walk in right as he's giving an invitation, thinking I'm going to take my mom up to go get prayed for by him. And I look over, and he's doing a salvation invitation. I look over and I watch my dad praying with this man, and my dad's not the kind of guy who would just go through the motions and do it. Like, he's just he would just sit there like this, you know, otherwise. And I remember he prayed the whole prayer, and I was just kind of like, I wonder what God's doing right now. So we get in the car afterwards. The guy prayed for, nothing happened. It was okay. It was fine. Yeah. And I just remember looking at my dad and saying in the car, and I was like, "Hey, Dad." He goes, "Something happened. I felt like there was like chills or something going down my body tonight." And I was like, "When did that happen?" He said, "When I prayed, or when I was talking with that man." And I was like, "When he was praying with you, did you know what you were saying?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Did you mean it?" And he was like, "Well, yeah." And I was like, "Well, Dad, you're saved then, you know?" And he was like, that's awesome. Y'all want to go get McDonald's? I mean, it was so like so nonchalant, but precious, and just definitely who he is.
Yeah.
And you know, fasting and praying broke through what had been years and years, decades of walls and barriers that were between the Lord and my parents' hearts.
I mean, the statistics are crazy that just talk about how, once people, get out of their 20s, the likelihood of them coming to know the Lord it goes way, way, way down.
Yeah.
And once you get into 50s, 60s, 70s, I mean, it's
very hard.
It's very rare. And so for two human beings who are in their 50s, to come to know the Lord,
that's awesome.
It's miraculous.
Yeah.
I mean,
and so I ask you right now, we tell you this super long story because we want you to know who we are. This is our life, and this is why we do this. We get on here and we show you our life, and it's not always pretty, but as you're fasting and praying, I want to know, what are you fasting and praying for? If you feel comfortable to share that on a comment, we would love to know that. We would love, because we're fasting and praying during this 21 days, and we want to join with you and pray with you, along with you, to see God do awesome and amazing things in your life and through your life and in your family's life. And so if you don't feel comfortable, you can always private message us. We would love to connect with you on that. But praying and fasting, we were talking one more thing about I want to talk about the feasting and the fasting thing.
Okay, before we do that, I just really feel like there are some people who are watching this, and you may not be watching live. You're going to see this later, and you're going to hear this, and you're going to realize, and you're going to feel right here that, man, like, I just need somebody to pray for me. I just need somebody to agree with me. And I'm promising you, if you will write to us, okay, if you will email me, Brandon at cultureconsultinggroup.com, or email Nicole, or comment on this, I'm promising you that we will pray for you.
Yep.
That we will agree with you. And I just feel like somebody needs to know that they've got a friend, that they've got somebody who will claim the promises of God with them over whatever it is. It might be a loved one that needs to come to know the Lord. It might be an addiction that you've struggled with your entire life, and you are just ready for that devil to get off your back. And I am saying that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And I just feel like there is some breakthrough that is at hand for some people. But sometimes breakthrough comes on the heels of us doing a little spiritual disciplines. And amping it up and saying, I'm going to live on another level because the God in me is going to flow on another level.
It's good. Come on. It's good. Yes, we want to pray for you. And, our whole desire in even doing these things is that we create this community where people feel safe, where people feel okay to not be perfect. We want to show you through our lives, like, we're not perfect. We've got issues in our marriage. We've got issues in our parenting. We've got issues in our faith. But we're moving forward in all of those things. And so, in doing that, we want you to feel like, hey, it's okay to not be at a 10 in all these areas all the time. And not only is it okay to not be perfect in all these areas, but wow, I've got other people who are doing that and who are willing to be connected with me as I grow. And so in whatever areas it is, we just want to pray. And Lord knows we've got plenty of laundry to fold. I could pray all day while I'm folding laundry. I'd much rather be praying while folding laundry than watching Netflix. So anyway, but one more thing I just wanted to talk about. I did want to talk about the feasting and fasting. So as we're praying and fasting together, one of the things we were talking about, and I do want to actually say this too. A few weeks ago, Brandon and I had this conversation I had something going on medically, and I was just like, babe, I need, I really need you to pray for me. It wasn't necessarily that there was actually anything wrong with me. Thank God there wasn't actually anything wrong with me. But I had escalated it in my mind, and the anxiety had just jumped on top of me, and it was almost debilitating for a couple of days. And so, Brandon, who doesn't really deal with the same fear and anxiety that I do, he'd kind of like knocked it off and just been like, yeah, babe, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You're good. But I was not hearing that. And so, there was one day where we were sitting here, and I was just like upset. I was like, babe, I showed him text messages of my sister-in-law who had been constantly praying for me and texting me about this one specific situation. And she's like amazing at that. And it's probably not fair to compare you to her, because she is really gifted at that. But I was just like, babe, I don't feel covered by you in prayer. I feel like my sister-in-law is praying for me more. I feel like my friends are praying for me more than I feel like you're praying for me right now. And I need you to pray. I need you to pray over me. I need to hear you pray for me. I need to know that you're praying for me when I'm not with you. I need you to just text me or say something or leave me a note or just something to let me know that like we're in this together in prayer. And that was a very vulnerable moment for me to have to actually say that. And I think it was probably pretty, I don't know, humbling for you to hear. Like,
yeah. And so I'll just say, and she knows this, I mean, how I responded.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't easy to hear. Because I want to be the big, bad, Braveheart warrior that's going to protect my boo, right? And but here's the thing. She was not feeling covered. She was not feeling protected. She was not feeling prayed for. And to be honest, I had gotten lazy. And, I do, sometimes I'll excuse it and I'll just say I don't want to get religious about things or whatever. And so, but I had not been in a spiritual discipline way of just covering her and praying for her and asking the Lord specifically what I should be praying for. And so I just had to repent to you.
Yeah.
And just tell you, you're right, honey. I'm sorry. I haven't been covering you like I know I can and like I know I should. And that was so thank you for, the little encouragement here.
Yeah.
The speaking truth to me, because it's my job as priest of this home to be a covering for you and for these girls. And so, heard.
And it was good.
Heard,
it was so good to see you just change, repent, changing his mind, changing his ways, and actually, showing me and making more effort toward that. And it was awesome. And so as we're going into this 21 days of fasting and prayer, one of the things that we decided that we were going to do is we are actually going to hold hands or be together in the same room and pray with one another over each other, over our children, over some of these issues that we're walking through, and literally, praying together is one of those things that we tell couples when they're dating that is probably not very good for you to pray together, because it brings such intimacy when you're just dating, when you're not engaged or something. But I tell young single women, it's if you just started dating a guy, don't get into the throne room with him. Don't start praying with him, because your heart will get connected to his heart so much quicker through prayer, and you really want to guard your heart. Now, I think when people are dating before they're married, the devil does everything that he can to fast forward intimacy and to make it happen quicker than it should. And when they're married, he tries everything he can to break apart intimacy. And so he does everything he can. It was so funny when Brandon and I were dating and engaged, especially when we were engaged, we prayed together a lot. And so we really did connect on that spiritual level. And it was almost immediately after, maybe not after we were married, but soon after we moved back to South Carolina and started just real jobs, and we were both out of seminary and stuff, real life, having kids and stuff. Yeah. And it was praying together was just a really difficult thing for us to stay consistent with. And so, we've had spurts where we do it really well, and then we just slack off, to be completely honest. And so that was one of our things. Like, we want to create that habit again of praying together, praying with one another, for one another, over one another, touching one another through prayer, and letting each other know that even when we're not together, we're praying for each other this week. I mean, over these next 3 weeks, and hopefully beyond.
Yeah.
You know?
And that was one of the things that I recognized was that sometimes I was praying for Nicole, but in a sense of, and maybe it was humility, maybe it's false humility, I just wasn't telling her about it, because I just was like, well, God's doing this thing, and I don't necessarily have to brag on myself and tell Nicole every time I'm praying for her. But she was basically saying, Brandon, actually, no, like,
I need to know
like
this.
right now, I need to know when you are praying for me, because that helps me to feel covered. And so, I'm telling her now. So I'm telling her now, like, hey, I'm praying. So when I pray for her, I'm trying to also communicate to her, hey, I'm praying for you.
Yeah.
Which feels a little weird, because that's just not my normal thing.
It's a little awkward, but it's good.
But for her and for her heart, she's feeling the love.
Yeah.
And that matters, especially for me, because I get so waffle-brained sometimes, and I just get so focused on whatever I'm doing that she needs to be reassured that I do have random thoughts in the middle of the day when I'm not with her about her, and then I'll actually believe, bring her name and her situation, before the Lord in prayer.
Good.
So
yeah, the last thing I wanted to talk about with it was just this idea of feasting and fasting. And so last night we were talking about this again in our small group, and we were saying that when we are fasting food, we are given the opportunity to feast on the Lord. And our little daughter's coming in. Hi, you can come here. It's okay.
Caroline, do you want to say hello to everybody?
Hi. Hi. Say Carolinisms.
If you were wondering why Nicole kept going.
Yeah, it's because she's coming down the steps.
Yeah,
so anyway,
awesome.
We'll just do this with her. So here we are, and we have this opportunity to feast on the Lord. I think about a feast. I think about the preparation that goes into it. I think about setting a beautiful table, setting the atmosphere, continuing to enjoy the whole process of cooking and preparing for it, and then inviting the guests in, eating this rich food, and just having hearty conversation, laughter, fun, making these memories. And so when we are physically taking the opportunity to deny ourselves of eating food, or feasting on food, or doing all this, then we have the opportunity to feast with the Lord, to prepare the environment, to prepare our hearts to spend time with Him, to linger as we would at a beautiful table after a meal, and you just sit back and enjoy each other's presence. We're not getting out of the chair quickly. We're not trying to clean up quickly. We are just there. And so as we were talking about how this feasting and fasting goes back and forth, I realized that there are so many times. We have another daughter who just came in.
We're feasting on Barry kids.
Daughters.
So you know what? We're going to just make room.
Hey, Ella.
And
it's 10:30 or whatever.
Allie's asleep.
Okay, Allie's
fell asleep with ice in her bed.
So right now we are feasting on
estrogen.
Some berry goodness right here.
So, the other option of that is that when we are feasting on whatever it is that we're feasting on, it could be food, it could be social media, it could be just entertainment, whatever it is, then if we're feasting on something, we're fasting something else. And so if I'm spending so much time scrolling through everybody's timeline, if I'm spending so much time reading mom blogs, if I'm spending so much time working, if I'm spending so much time preparing dinners and or doing housework or whatever it is that takes up my time, then I'm fasting. I'm saying no to something else. I'm usually saying no to my rich time with the Lord. And so during this experience, we are just trying to stay focused on on enjoying the feast of the Lord and tasting and seeing that He is good, and blessed is the man who takes his refuge in Him. And so I just want to encourage you with that as you're thinking about fasting and prayer. I want you to not consider it being a time where you're just denying yourself something, but instead that it's a time where you can feast on the Lord, where you give yourself permission to linger, and see how He is able to completely satisfy you in ways, in physical ways, in spiritual ways, in emotional ways. We just want to encourage you during that time to really dig in and enjoy the feast, and recognize your royalty, your royal position at the table with the Lord.
I think that's good. I mean, and I think the hunger pains, the sugar low, the headache, whatever it is, that's a reminder that you're fasting. Use that as a reminder to in your spirit come to the table. And so the hunger is there because it's a symbol to you that you're hungry physically, but it's a symbol, and it's a sign to God that you're hungry spiritually.
Yeah.
And what is the promise that Jesus said? He opened His ministry with it at the Sermon on the Mount. He said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled." And I know that in 2017, I am hungry for more of God. I'm hungry for revival. I'm hungry for these girls to know Him like I know Him. For them to stretch out their hands and heal. For them to preach. For their feet to be anointed, because they bring the good news of the gospel of the kingdom. And I'm telling you, I'm hungry for God to do amazing things. Are you hungry? Well, if so, then take the plunge with us, and and pray together, fast together, and see what God will do. He will not be mocked. Whatever a man sows, that he will also reap.
That's good.
And so I'm telling you, it will do something to your spiritual life. I dare you.
And your marriage.
And your marriage. That's right.
And all your relationships.
Guys, we just are so grateful for this time on Thursday nights to be able to connect with you. It's been a couple of weeks, but we're glad to be able to join back with you again. If you have anything that we can be praying for, leave it in the comments or shoot us a text or an email, and we'll be praying. We'll be praying with you, agreeing with you.
Love it. You guys rock. We'll see you again next week. We do have some awesome things coming up with Barry Share, so stay tuned in the weeks to come as we start to reveal some exciting things. And we just want to say, be blessed. Be blessed in your fasting and your feasting. Be blessed in your prayers and your relationships. And thanks again for being with us tonight.
And by the way, we're going to be hosting a marriage conference.
Oh yeah, we are.
And so, do you want to tell them the details of that, or we can just post it later on?
We'll post it, but
Okay.
But yeah, we're going to be speaking at a marriage conference February 10th and 11th here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're going to be the main speakers, so we are super pumped about that. What a great opportunity to share a lot of what God's done in our hearts and our marriage through us, and just be able to connect with awesome couples at Mosaic Church. It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. You can go to mosaicchurch.tv for more information about it, and we would love to see you there. So it's going to be a great time. We'll give you more information. We'll post some things about it, but that's a little shout out for you. We would love to see some of your faces there in person. So y'all have a great night. We'll see you soon.
Love y'all. Good night. Say good night.
Can you go? Good night.
You want to press the button?
You can go press the button.
How do you?
It says finish.
The finish button.
Right there.
Okay. You do it on mine, and Caroline, you do it on mommy's.
That's it. Good job.